Is NIO's first sub-brand, Onvo, and the L60, that model, those vehicles, are they going to actually translate to more NIO sales? Let's play a little game called Connect the Dots, and we're starting with the Onvo website. This is the first sub-brand NIO's come out with. The vehicle shown on screen is the L60. That's the model. And here's the last thing I want to point out before we move on to our next dot. The price is pre-sale 219,900 yuan. Of course, there's some optionality, flexibility with NIO through battery as a service. The optionality being you can rent the battery, you don't have to pay. So you can essentially save through an unconventional discount type of scenario as a consumer or buyer or user. That's important because NIO is the leader and the only company that offers this. And so now with Onvo also offering it, this is part of where I'm wondering if we won't see some of the potential L60 and Onvo sales translate and turn into NIO sales. But hang on, let's go to the next dot. We're going back in time now. And I shared something and then gave a little hint, and no one figured it out, or at least no one commented on it. So let me take you back in time with me. I was showing the data, and I'll pull it up here in just a minute again so you can see it with me, and I'll point out exactly what I was talking about. But I gave the specific time frame from the video, a minute 24 in. And then I highlighted the comment because someone was trying to be negative in the comment section, said too much hype on Onvo could be an ET5 moment, which is a failure. My response was, this is a great comment for a future video. Hint, there's an indicator on the data shared on screen in this video that I didn't mention yet. So we'll get to that in just a second. But one of the other dots, and this was, and shout out to Lei Xing for sharing this, because this was one of the dots I was kind of waiting and hoping to see, get more data intel on. Here's my thinking. I know there have been lots of numbers floating around about pre-sale orders and this sort of thing. I'm less concerned about any of those rumors. The rumor mill matters not at all to me. But this is an indicator. So Lei Xing was talking about, he went to an L60 event. He signed up. He went. The fellows are the salespeople for NIO and for Onvo. And so here's what we've got. Contacted from a fellow and went to one of 15 sessions. All right. So this is all I'm thinking when I see this post is I'm like, okay, let's get some data here. 15 sessions. And then down here, turns out there were about 24 fellows. So those are the sales personnel working the event, with about 100 visitors attending each session. So we've got 100 visitors at 15 sessions. You can do the math. But now let's move on to the data that I shared and didn't highlight, didn't mention. This is the point right here. NIO has a premium position with its EVs, but because of the creativity, the flexibility, the optionality, and a lot of things that NIO can do from a value add proposition, they can do what I guess you could call them unconventional discounts. Now, historically, what we've seen is all of NIO's sales coming in the 300,000 RMB price range and above. But in this year of 2024, we see some now popping up in the 200 to 300,000 RMB price range. So this becomes important, because when I noticed this, it got me thinking, if NIO's goal with Onvo is to come out with and build up to 20,000 monthly deliveries of Onvo's L60, and that's coming out of NIO Park, the second phase, then it sounds like they've already kind of put a cap on their potential, at least what they're looking to do for a ceiling. But here's what I'm wondering. If I'm a consumer and I go and I'm interested in the L60, and then I have the opportunity to maybe get into an unconventionally, shall we say, discounted with maybe some value adds, a NIO, well, maybe I'm considering a NIO, especially if the NIO is more readily available and I can get it faster than having to wait for the L60, especially when we go back to, and again, this is where I mentioned the price point, in that 200,000 yuan or RMB price range. And again, there's flexibility that NIO has here. So imagine when we now jump back to these numbers and we see that NIO has already been doing some sales for less than 300,000 RMB or yuan, then I guess what I'm thinking is, if the capacity potential for deliveries and the ramp gets maxed out on the side of the L60, and or if there are so many people, if there's so much interest in China that NIO cannot come up with enough L60s fast enough, then rather than losing those sales on the L60s, why not convert them into NIO sales? I think some people would be happy converting and changing over from the Onvo L60 to one of the NIO vehicles. So this is what I've had in mind for a little while, but I waited to share it. And I'm really glad that Leishing shared that. So there was another dot to sort of connect out there. But I want to hear from others on this, because I think there's a phenomenal opportunity for NIO. And this also comes at a time when NIO is ramping their production and doing more deliveries than they've ever done. So it looks like their timing of everything, the cadence that they're operating with, is finally coming into full effect. And so I've talked about it recently, how market awareness, the first major growth phase for NIO, looks like it is starting to take shape. And we'll just keep tracking and monitoring it moving forward. But I was excited to talk about this and point that out, because there is so much flexibility. There's such an enormous advantage that NIO has. And the slowest piece of the EV market to move over, transition from ICE to pure battery electric vehicles, has been that high-end price range. But NIO's already starting to take and maybe gain a little more traction and take more of those sales. There are still a lot of sales they can take, especially from their main competitors in that higher price range with BMW, Audi, and Mercedes. So with so many more sales potentially coming the way of NIO, I almost wonder if the delivery ramp it isn't going to become the most critical piece for NIO and its growth, with both the NIO brand and now coming out with, in September, the deliveries of the Onvo L60s. Can they keep up on that? How fast can they ramp that? And really, I'd rather they not ramp it faster and have the quality that NIO has become known for. But then on the side of Onvo with the L60, if they can quickly, or have perhaps already maxed out and end up being months in advance on pre-orders and that sort of thing, then how hard will it be for the fellows to convert some of those to NIO sales? And what can NIO creatively offer and do, whether it's NIO points that they can redeem and then use to do some shopping, or whether it's battery swaps, I love the freedom. What about a free phone? The freedom and creativity that NIO and William Lee, Mystery Q is what I call him, because he's built so much of this within the big picture of the business model. And frankly, one of the things a lot of people have been negative on is something I've been positive on, and that is NIO, with so many different things that it is doing, having the battery as a service optionality. They are the early mover in this space. That's why they have such a big advantage. It's also why now other companies, some giants from China, are partnering with NIO, because they see the future in this battery swappable capacity potential with the models. And let's face it, if the shell of the vehicle maintains its value better and there's more of a resale value from that, it just makes sense to me anyway. But I think a lot of people, especially here in the West, in the US, for example, still don't even know about this. When I start talking to people about it and sharing some of these things, they get very excited. And there's a lot more to cover, but I want to get this up and out. So have a great day. Come back and see me again. Thanks. I'll see you all again very soon.